Hello and welcome to my indie game devlog channel. The game I've been working on is called The Dog Days of August. You play as a dog, wandering around, exploring the world. I haven't figured out the rest yet, but I'm working on it. These past 2 weeks, I've continued working on my in-game sequencer to allow players to make music in-game. The main focus was to get multiple instruments working, instead of just one. Last time, I'd implemented this system in which notes were read and played in real time. This was kind of clunky and prone to synchronization issues, especially when adding multiple instruments. You can kind of hear that here. Not every note sounds exactly in time. Following some suggestions from my friend, I switched to a pre-computed strategy. Basically, the way it works now is that the entire song is made beforehand, and then this song is played through an audio source. So, how do I do this? Well, here's a brief overview. For a given instrument, I take the sample, I scale it, and then I add it to a huge array that will be the entire song. I then create an audio clip out of this array and play this out of an audio source. This method allows me to compute exactly where each note needs to go to ensure that each note is played on time. And this gets rid of any inconsistency with using separate audio players. One downside to this is that each time the user edits the song, I need to recompute the whole array, but so far this hasn't been an issue and this method ends up being pretty fast. Now, probably the most complicated thing with this approach is scaling the samples. When Unity changes the pitch on an audio source, it just changes the sample rate, so it reads the samples at a slower or faster pace based on the pitch. So this won't work for me because I'm playing everything out of a single audio player. I need to create a new scaled sample array from the original for each note. Now, this isn't a super simple task, but the approach I took was basically resample the array and then interpolate between the ground truth samples if needed. Here's a really simple example. Let's say we have this sample array that contains just two numbers, 0 and 10. In this example, let's say the user wants the note to be played at half the pitch. We would then double the length of the array and interpolate between the two values, giving us a new in-between sample of 5. Once scaled, we have a sample of the instrument playing at the correct pitch. We can then sum this with the whole song array at the correct index. To calculate the correct index, we do some math with the sample rate, tempo, and column index of the note placed. When we sum this with the song array, it'll sound just like the note has been added to the song. In this way, we can play notes simultaneously just by summing them into the song at the same index. However, summing, as well as the resampling, can add some noisy artifacts. When you add two sample notes, if there are some large numbers at the same index, you might get an overflow or underflow issue, which will introduce some artifacts. You can do what's called clipping and just cap any overflow or underflow at a max or min. This can help. I've also slapped on a low pass filter to cut out some of the high frequency noise. So that pretty much covers all the major backend changes. The sequencer now works with multiple instruments and the timing is much more consistent now as well. Some other changes I worked on this week were adding multiple note lengths, adding drums. These just change the sample instead of the pitch when you change the y-axis. Some quality of life changes, such as adaptive cursor movement, a song progress marker, I finished labeling axis. It's working with cursor movement too. I added song looping. This will be toggleable later. The notes will play now when moving the cursor. And I added row shading based on black and white piano keys. I plan on wrapping up this sequencer in the next 2 weeks with a UI overhaul and some more features like adding the ability for the user to copy and paste sections, to change the tempo, and to save and load songs.